Star Wars has a lot of really cool aliens. It's got a lot of really cool stories, and whether you're brand new to the series or a lifelong fan, you could point out quite a few of them. Recently, Disney came out with a TV show focusing on one of these cultures, the show known as The Mandalorian, and its second season is coming out next month. Now, many of us know the most famous Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and possibly even his father, Jango. Who are the Mandalorians? What is their culture, their identity, their history? Well, let's tackle that. The Mandalorian culture is similar to the Spartans in real-world ancient Greece, in the sense that they are a very warrior-like culture. Mandalorians are essentially a mercenary army for hire, selling themselves out to the highest bidder. Now, the Mandalorians at the beginning of the Star Wars history were usually found fighting on the side of the Sith against the Republic. There are many reasons for this, one being the fact that the Old Republic, or the Galactic Republic as it was called then, to be filled with a bunch of snooty people who seemed full of themselves, the better-than-thou type. Mandalorians didn't really care for that, as they saw each other as brothers and sisters in arms, not really having one above the other. Another reason they resented the Galactic Republic deals with the fact that they were nearly wiped out by a Jedi known as Revan when he led the Galactic Republic armies, before becoming a Sith himself. Eventually, however, several years after the Galactic Empire fell, the New Republic was being born and also falling apart, the Mandalorians would side with them against the greater threats like the Yusong Vong. The original Mandalorians were an actual alien race known as the Tongs, but would adopt other people, other civilizations into their culture. It eventually became more of an identity than an actual species. Now, Mandalorians claim their homeworld as the planet Mandalore, but only in the strictest of senses. If they had to go to a particular planet to retire, that's the planet they would go to, but really they're more nomadic than that, spreading out amongst the galaxy, disappearing into the crowd. Being soldiers for hire, they don't really subscribe to a national identity, but there are a few things they hold dear. The most important thing to a Mandalorian is family. Like many cultures throughout many ages here in the real world, the father is the head of the household, the wife stays home to cook, clean, do the typical mom things. This includes raising the children, usually until they're about 8 to 10 years old. Since Mandalorians are almost always in one scrap or another, the fathers would take their sons into battle, teaching them how to fight and wage war on whatever battlefield the father was already fighting on. Again, because of the adoptive nature of Mandalorians, sons weren't always by blood. Some children were essentially orphans found on the battlefields themselves, and Mandalorians would adopt those that they deemed to have a warrior spirit about them. Now, on a flip note, family is just as easy to dissolve as it is to make. A Mandalorian marriage is just a few sentences, and a divorce is just about as long. Children can disown their parents if they find them to be failing in their role as a parent. Mandalorians also have their own language, which is known as Mandoa. What's interesting about this language is that they have no word for hero, as they see that every Mandalorian should fall into what most of us define as hero anyhow. Because of this, calling a Mandalorian a traitor or Arte is the strongest and highest insult that you can give. Now, Arte itself stands for foreigner, non-Mandalorian, which is why it's used for traitors. You're basically pushed out of the culture. Mandalorians do not care for any Arte because they basically see them all as outsiders, and all outsiders are the enemy. Now, if you watch the TV show The Mandalorian, you'll hear about the Way. What is the Way? Is it their culture? It's kind of hard to decipher because, as many people know, when it comes to Star Wars, there's kind of two realms to it. One being Legends, the other Canon. Now, Legends was written by all kinds of different authors shortly after the first Star Wars movie came out, and Canon is the movies themselves as well as anything that was made after Disney purchased LucasArts. The two sides don't really work out very well. They have a lot of conflicts. Now, one of these discrepancies is that one of the rules found in canon that falls under this way is that Mandalorians aren't allowed to take off their helmets and show their faces to any living being. If they do so, that means they've essentially retired and they can't put the helmet back on. Now, this is absolutely ridiculous. There's no such thing as that. In fact, because I like to slap canon around when they do stupid stuff like this. There's a lot of things in canon, not just LucasArts canon, but Disney canon as well, that shows this isn't true. Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones is shown a few times not wearing his helmet. Other people can see him not wearing his helmet. And Sabine Wren in the Star Wars Rebels TV show, who's another Mandalorian, is also seen a lot of times not wearing a helmet. One of the things that is true in the Mandalorian TV show is the armor, which is known as Beskar Gam. Now, the metal that makes up Beskar Gam is Beskar, which is a type of iron that is dang near indestructible when forged correctly. Mandalorian metalsmiths keep the forging and smelting processes to themselves, only passing their secrets down to their apprentices, so again, outsiders never really learn how to properly use it. Because of its unique properties, it can be forged into any number of different shapes, sizes, configurations. Anything as simple as wires, foam, and mesh to the famous armor itself. Now, Beskar Gam is known to be, like I said, nearly indestructible. It's even been known to deflect lightsabers, which is why in Attack of the Clones, Mace Windu decapitates Jango Fett instead of stabbing him like they do everybody else. Beskar can also be forged into several types of weapons. One of these being known as crush gaunts, which gives the wearer increased strength to the point where they can break bones, crush metal, that sort of deal. It even allows a wearer to catch a lightsaber's blade or deflect it aside. Now, when it comes to Mandalorian armor, if you ever pay attention, many of them wear some kind of sigil and it's painted a certain kind of color. That's not just random cosmetics. They all mean something. The sigil themselves is a kind of coat of arms, and the colors that are displayed are what they're fighting for. It ranges from anything like black for justice to gold for vengeance. Now, Boba Fett, his armor is green, and that signifies duty. Jango's blue armor means reliability. Now, for the Mandalorians, color wasn't just about looking cool or intimidating, but to show the other Mandalorians what it was that they stood for. A lot of people find the Mandalorians to be barbarians, but in the Mandalorian culture themselves, they're actually rather civilized. Now, the Mandalorian helmets allow their wearers to see in a 360-degree view, which can unnerve outsiders, as wherever the helmet might be pointing doesn't necessarily mean that's where the warrior is looking. This ability, combined with the reputation of the Mandalorians for being powerful fighters, makes a lot of people nervous, especially when you see that famous T-visor associated with those helmets. Mandalorians are more than happy to press this advantage, further pushing the divide between the RT and the Mando. Mandalorians are known for being good with weaponry of any type. They oftentimes carry a lot of different weapons, many of them hidden. They're also always ready for a fight, even when they're in civilian gear walking amongst the populace. Many of them are going to carry some kind of knife, a vibroblade, hold-out blaster while in that clothing, and sometimes will even wear armor beneath that gear because they're always ready for a fight. It's in their nature to be. Now, even though Mandalorians don't really belong to a particular nation, don't hold to a particular cause, they are loyal to each other. And Mandalorians are going to be sort of led by what's referred to as the Mandalore or Mandalore and Mandoa. Now, this isn't necessarily a king type of individual that I say you do this and everybody does it. It's just who runs the roost in case there's a squabble going on type of deal. Now, again, Legends and Canon are going to differ on how one is chosen. Legends has it decided by the people, and not necessarily in the majority rules democracy type of way. It's more of a who's got who's back. If other Mandalorians aren't willing to back your play, then you're not Mandalore. That's not how it works. Canon started off kind of having that, but decided to go a stranger route, which is by using what's referred to as the dark saber, which is basically the symbol for their ruler. Whoever possesses the Darksaber is the Mandalore, that kind of deal. Now, supposedly, the strongest fighter is going to be the only one who's able to win the Darksaber from the previous owner. That's just kind of silly. It makes him sound almost Sith-esque. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, the Darksaber is a lightsaber with a black blade, which made a cameo appearance at the very end of the first season's finale of The Mandalorian when the guy managed to extract himself from his busted-up TIE fighter. The Darksaber has shown up a few times in other shows, with its first appearance in the TV show The Clone Wars. Honestly, though, I think it just needs thrown out. It's basically saying whoever holds the crown is the king. That's not how that works. This won't necessarily have the others always backing your play. It's not almost always having somebody vying for that top dog seat. It just makes for a great big mess. Now, when the Mandalorians look up to their leaders, it's not something done out of fear, but done out of loyalty. So when others don't follow, this can lead to a bit of a break. Now, one of these rival factions, someone who's essentially broken away from the majority of the Mandalorians, is known as the Death Watch. And the Death Watch, they tried to make their top guy the Mandalore, and that's what made the rest of the population a little bit cranky with them. Now, in the TV show The Clone Wars, which is one of the places many people are familiar with them with, they are seen as a relatively new group, but in Legends, they've been around for quite some time. Death Watch members are very strict on who should be allowed into the Mandalorian culture, and the other clans don't really care for them that much. Thankfully, both Legends and Canon do agree on that. Now, there are other clans out there as well in the Mandalorian culture, but most of them never really made a big stink, and essentially all they are is a family, the family that you herald from.